In this section of training, we're going to explore the topic of phonological processing. We'll provide an overview of the different subskills within the phonological processing umbrella term, and discuss their importance in the role of language development for reading and spelling. The term phonological processing is an umbrella term that encompasses several different categories of phonology. We'll explore each of these categories in depth and discuss how they relate to language development and how they support or interfere with a student's ability to read and spell. The first subskill we'll explore is verbal short-term memory. Verbal short-term memory is the ability to be able to hang on to things that are heard long enough to apply or manipulate them in context. From a decoding perspective, verbal short-term memory supports students so that they are able to remember the sounds in an unknown word long enough to blend them together to recognize the unknown word. For example, in text, a student may encounter m, a, g. If verbal short-term memory skills are strong, the student may not have any difficulty identifying the word mug. Whereas a student that does have verbal short-term memory difficulty may instead say m, a, g, and then go back and pronounce a word that does not seem in any way related, such as man, or gun, or bat. Often when educators observe this process, they're baffled at how a student was able to come up with a word that didn't even match the sounds that were initially pronounced. Again, when this happens, it's often an indication that the student is struggling with verbal short-term memory. Verbal short-term memory is also essential for comprehension. Students must be able to recall the order of words in a sentence to extract the appropriate meaning. They must also be able to remember the events in a story to understand the overall theme or message from the author. Outside of academics, verbal short-term memory is also an essential life skill. If students struggle to remember and retrieve information, multi-step directions are difficult. Oftentimes, students with verbal short-term memory difficulty may appear as if they are making bad behavior choices or not complying, when essentially what's happening is that they are not remembering the directions and therefore have a difficult time following them. The next subskill we'll explore is rapid serial naming. Rapid serial naming is often called rapid automatic naming, or RAN. Rapid automatic naming is the ability to quickly see and retrieve the name of an object, color, or letter. It is an indication of a student's processing speed. When students are administered a rapid automatic naming assessment, educators often think that the intent of the assessment is to measure their ability to recognize colors or recognize letters. In fact, it is an indication of processing speed that is the intent of the assessment. When students are being administered a RAN assessment, the educator must ensure that the student already automatically knows the name of the objects, colors, or letters being presented. You want to make sure that the assessment is truly a measurement of processing speed. The reason processing speed is such an important factor in understanding a student's overall performance is that if a student is having difficulty with processing information quickly, then it will slow down their ability to decode, read fluently, or understand new information provided in classroom instruction. The next subskill we'll review is articulation speed. Articulation speed involves the ability to pronounce sounds accurately, quickly, and fluently. Inability to articulate sounds quickly and automatically will often make it difficult for students to pronounce the right word in text. Some mispronunciations are developmental, for example, aminal versus animal, or pischetti for spaghetti. But those kinds of mispronunciations as a student proceeds in school may indicate articulation speed difficulty. The reason we need to be aware of articulation speed is that if students struggle to form a sound correctly as they're sounding out an unknown word, it will eventually slow them down and make it difficult for them to go back and blend those sounds together to decode the word correctly. It will also make it difficult for them to be fluent readers of text. The last subskill of phonological processing that we'll go over is phonological awareness. Phonological awareness is the ability to recognize or manipulate the sound of our language. While this is progressing from larger, easier units of language to eventually individual phonemes or the smallest units of language, these stages of development are critical. At the earliest stages, phonological awareness involves the ability to recognize a word over an individual sound. Oftentimes, this involves a teacher pronouncing a sentence and asking the student to tell how many words were in the sentence. Being able to distinguish a word from a sound is an important skill for us to talk about and to be able to instruct students on our language. We then progress into syllable awareness. Syllable awareness involves the ability to count or clap out syllables and words. Finally, we progress to phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness involves our ability to manipulate individual sounds in language. This skill is essential for being able to teach decoding and encoding skills. Oral language activities are the avenue for working on phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness does not involve seeing words in print. One of the essential components of phonemic awareness instruction is the correct pronunciation of sounds. Some students will have difficulty pronouncing sounds in isolation. And if their avenue for learning sounds is through mimicking adult speech, it is expected that some cleaning up of individual phonemes may be necessary when they enter school. When students first enter school in kindergarten and first grade, phonemic awareness instruction is generally part of the curriculum. It's important for educators to be aware that while there are different stages of phonemic awareness activities, some phonemes are more difficult to pronounce, recognize, and manipulate than others. Oftentimes, the easiest consonant sounds, such as m, t, and s, are the best ones with which to begin our instruction for students. Reserve our liquid sounds, such as l, r, and then some of our j sounds, and more challenging digraphs for later instruction. Something to be aware of regarding phonemic awareness is that speaking is a natural process, reading is not. Phonemic awareness is a critical connector between our oral language and our written language. That direct instruction and practice of phonemic awareness skills is a critical prerequisite for being able to teach the alphabetic principle, or that sound-symbol correspondence. One of the reasons researchers stress the importance of assessing or screening for phonemic awareness is because it is such a strong predictor of students' reading and spelling abilities. And one of the reasons we screen is that we know that if we can identify students who lack phonemic awareness skills early on, we can provide direct and explicit instruction and support them in developing these foundational skills. There is no shortage of information available to us on the topic of phonemic awareness. The National Reading Panel provides a great summary for educators on how to approach incorporating phonemic awareness instruction into your classroom. An important point to which we'd like to draw your attention is that direct instruction in phonemic awareness activities and skills does result in improved phonemic awareness. Also, that instruction that is provided in the earliest grades is more effective and has a direct correlation to later reading and spelling achievement. The early grades, kindergarten and first grade, are the targeted age ranges for receiving direct and preventative phonemic awareness instruction. If you're using our lesson plans, you'll find that several different phonemic awareness activities are provided in our OG lessons daily. If you find yourself working with an older student who has phonemic awareness gaps, make sure that they still have the benefit of receiving phonemic awareness instruction. You do not age out of phonemic awareness. If the skills are lacking, then providing instruction to support students to develop those skills is critical. This concludes this section of training.